Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we are talking about how AMC is beating the shorts algo, how the shorts were wrong again, the $150 to $250 range, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. What cracked the AMC short selling algo on Thursday? Simple, word is getting out. In an environment where everything else is collapsing, new buyers are moving in and they want in on the ape action. So ever since Thursday, what we saw, and Wednesday even, we saw AMC's been going up. Today, we're up 12.95% and even higher. Still have an hour before the market closes. So we're definitely going to see more volatility coming in. But for the last 3 days, we've seen very, very good movement. 5% on Wednesday, 8.74% on Thursday, and then today, 12.95% so far. And so what we are seeing is how the algorithm is starting to be cracked down. And the reason for this is because everyone is realizing how good of an investment not only the movie theater industry is, but the best one within the industry. Firstly, if we take a look at some of the things, wow, big. Super Mario, Project Hail Mary, and so many more movies led AMC Entertainment to recording our highest ever revenues globally for a 5-day Easter weekend from Wednesday to Sunday in our company's 106-year history. More than 6 million moviegoers were in our theaters. So if you wanted any signs of, is the movie theater industry recovering this year? Are they improving this year? This is what you're looking at. We've already talked about there have been so many good movies that's been released recently, and it's done exceptionally well. And we're seeing how AMC is obviously benefiting off of from this. We're only going to see more and more movies coming out. So the news that we're looking at right now, I wouldn't be surprised to see it get broken again. Now, of course, we won't be able to see another record Easter weekend being set this year because there's only going to be one every year. But I do believe that we're going to be seeing record attendances just in general being recorded this year. To take an understanding of this more and to understand it in detail, you can see the first 5 days of Q2, our all-time record of domestic box office by 20 million, and that's with about half the films. 65 now versus 117 in 2010. Additionally, AMC used to have zero merch sales and confirmed for Mario, selling around 500,000 units of themed merchandises. And then on top of that, we have more ad revenue and far higher food and bev sales than in the past. So we have to take a look at something first. One of the best things I've talked about now is how much more efficient not only AMC is, but the box office is. The reason why I say this is because I want to focus on this 65 now versus the 117 in 2010. Essentially, you take a look at the comparison, you can see 2026, 269 million, 2015, 249 million. But the difference is the movies that are being released. You're looking at 117 here and 65. So we were able to do the same numbers with less movies being released. So you can imagine what would happen if we see more and more movies get released. If we had the same number of 117, then potentially we could have seen the total growth to have even doubled. And so all of this is just showing how big the industry is currently getting. And of course, how much we're making from this. Some of the things to note is, of course, is that we are posting our largest combined global admissions and food and beverage revenue for a 5-day Easter weekend in the company's 106-year history. We're doing extremely well with merchandise sales. We're doing extremely solid performances by other titles. This is how well AMC is doing. Currently, the Super Mario Galaxy movie was a major hit, and the merchandise is ranked as AMC's second best-selling and second highest grossing merchandise program of all time, just behind the Taylor Swift The Eras Tour concert film. So this is just the understanding of truly how well recently things have been going for us. And you can understand why we're seeing AMC going up, why more and more people want to buy AMC. And so if someone trying to say the theaters are dead narrative, you can just show them this particular set of data and say that the quarter to date box office for Q2 of 2026 is the highest it's ever been, going all the way back to 1978. How can you say that the industry is dying if we're making records like this? And furthermore, how can you say that AMC won't make any money when we've been more efficient than ever and we're seeing the biggest box office? So both of these things combined together right now are just one of the biggest reasons for why we're beating the short algorithm, for why more and more investors want to accumulate AMC. And like we've said, these are just some of the blockbusters coming out in 2026. We've been seeing Adam Aaron extremely optimistic recently because he realizes how many more films are going to be coming out later this year. And so this is going to add on to top of everything that we've just talked about. And if you just look at it here, we have so much that are coming out, especially we have Toy Story 5, which I would expect to do even better. We also have the Spider-Man movie and so much more. And so this is not to mention Avengers Doomsday. Again, so many on this list I could go on and on about, but already from a glimpse, you will understand why we've talked about this year is going to be an extremely good year. We're going to see AMC really captivating this whole audience, this whole opportunity. And so more and more people want to make sure that they can set up the foundations now. They know that when all of these movies comes out, and AMC has already profited and benefited from these movies, and they release their earnings, they know they won't ever be able to get AMC at this current price ever again because it's a missed opportunities. And ultimately, this is a big problem for hedge funds because the indicator of the industry health and what we're looking at right now is only getting bigger and bigger. And it's extremely simple to understand as we're seeing the domestic yearly box office, as we're seeing the box office in general increase and it's better than the previous year. That itself is all we need to know how well AMC is going to do, how big AMC is going to get, and how screwed these short sellers are going to be. And on top of this as well, so AMC up 10% today, and of course as of right now 12.05, but AMC is up 10+% today as it remains one of the most heavily shorted stocks in the US. So if you want to look at rooms for growth, if you want to talk about how we can still break these short sellers, this is what we're talking about. We are still not seeing the full potential. A 10% move, in my opinion, is extremely normal for AMC. When you consider how undervalued AMC is, when you consider all of the suppression and manipulation that's ongoing, a 10% move is extremely normal for AMC. But on top of this is the fact that we're seeing the 10% move while still being heavily suppressed. So if you take away the suppression and you just talk about AMC moving naturally, you can understand and expect AMC to have rapid movements. And so this 10% is very normal, and I'm expecting even more things to come in the future for AMC. And another reason for why AMC is up is we're basically seeing an extremely low of exchange volume, at least for today. And you can see 60.95%. We saw 8.2 million shares of exchange, still a lot, but we saw 15% NYSE, where we saw 2.1 million go into the Nasdaq, the NYSE, sorry. And this is how we're then seeing AMC go up. You know, I took a screenshot as well and sent this, where we saw it then 68%, so a 8% increase. So still we saw the suppression. We still had the 11%, so still quite a decent amount for NYSE. But we saw 3.2 million shares hit NYSE, so 19.2 being hidden away. Now these are just 2 hours apart, but it shows how with a below 70%, with a below 90% dark pool, we can see how well AMC is going. And again, we were still met with suppression, just like we talked about, 2 hours apart, and we saw over 8% increase in the off exchange. We saw over 8 million shares being routed off exchange. So there was still a lot of profit or a lot of room for growth left on the table here. But nevertheless, you can see how the moment they stop using dark pool to an extremely high percentage, you see how AMC is improving. You see how AMC is able to go up. And that's what we have to realize. And you can see this is how we know that short sellers are extremely worried. John Hampton, March 26. Will AMC ever trade above $1 again? So that's what he said. And he's talking about ladder attacks. He's talking about see you at 50 cents. He talks about all of this. Expects this fight is over. It's the end of AMC, blah, 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 blah. And today we're looking at AMC to be at currently 125, despite what he said about will AMC ever trade above $1 again. So you can definitely expect a lot of short sellers probably made a new set of position the moment AMC fell below $1. And they thought that AMC was going to continue to fall. So what we're looking at right now is those sets of short sellers to be losing out on money and to be losing very likely a lot of money, because it isn't just the open short positions they have, but it's also the synthetic positions that they also have open. And we have to understand that you can see from many users' perspective is that everyone is convinced there's a pot of gold on the other side of AMC turning a profit, aka a MOAS. And so this is what we said with why more and more people are only going to buy AMC, why the price that we're looking at right now, and especially just a month ago of why I talked about how you're possibly never going to be able to get that price again. That exists, that applies for the same situation today as well. And people are realizing just how much potential there is. People are realizing how much return they can get. And this is why we're seeing more and more people buy. And it's why I'm talking about how potentially it's the last ever time we'll see AMC at these prices. If we take a look at it from a technical perspective, we can see AMC filled the gap at 113. We can see how, so many things is going on right now from the technical perspective. What we're looking at as well is the $150 to $250 target for this movement of AMC that's ongoing. There are so much positive things going on right now. Again, in this video, we've already covered from the fundamentals. We're talking about the overall macro of the box office. We're talking about the micros in terms of how AMC is able to captivate on these potentials, how AMC is becoming more efficient. And then when we take a look at the technicals, we're seeing how buyers are coming in. We're seeing how short sellers are losing on their positions. And then we're looking at how some of the price targets being given, especially with how much room there is to run, we're looking at extremely, extremely high numbers. And these are all things that we have to realize about the potential of AMC. You can see it's my firm belief that AMC all-time high is ahead of us, and that will be determined by AMC apes' collective ability to hodl. So this is very obvious and easy to understand. It's obviously talking about how if we're not giving up, if we're not giving in to these short sellers and selling them our real shares, eventually they will have to give up. Eventually we'll see how AMC is going to crack through all of the pressure that is being built. And it's just like what we're seeing right now, what we talked about, how we're breaking the algo because we're seeing how people are willing to hold. We're seeing how people are willing to fight back against the short sellers. And you can see GME and Snap trading identical as AMC rips up today. The theory is correct. It's all one basket of naked short selling turned into hidden swaps at UBS. And they did not expect AMC to hit. So we're seeing how the firms who have always held on to the AMC shorts, the GME swaps, who are the reason for why we're seeing the price suppression, you can see how they're starting to slowly not be able to. You're seeing them how they're starting to slowly obviously break apart, and we're only going to eat into them even more. And UBS is one of the ones that we're looking at, and we're already seeing cracks in the dam right now. Now, something that I found interesting is this Stefan, who talks about the exit strategy. Again, none of this is a financial advisor. Do take advice and sell. Make sure to do your own due diligence and research. Now, I'm not asking you to comment your exit strategy down below, but of course, I think it is very, very something that I want to mention that I think it should be in the back of your mind is understanding how you should have an exit strategy. Again, I won't tell you how to do it, nor would I tell you to comment down below and tell everyone your exit strategy. But if you don't have that in mind, it's obviously something that I think you should consider. Now, we're looking at this from Michael Burry right now, who's, again, super pro on GME, who's super positive on GME. And one of the reasons he says this is because he feels like this year is going to be the year of opportunity for GME. He truly thinks that something is likely to happen. And that's why we've seen recently how he's doubled his position in GME. And so we're also seeing how not only AMC is improving, but also GME is improving as well. And just how we talked about, when AMC is breaking up and going up, we're breaking up the short. When GME does the same as well, the short will also be affected, which would positively affect AMC as well. So ultimately, we want both AMC and GME to do well if we want to see the squeeze being accelerated. Now, we're seeing also the potential of GameStop and in terms of the extending the warrant expiration. And the reason for this is because if it gets immediately exercised, then you're going to have thousands of counterfeit warrant holders screaming. And that's what potentially we may be seeing, but what this is just the same logic as a gamma squeeze, the same logic as putting pressure on the short sellers. And that's what we talked about with how we want to get our squeeze. Some macro news that I think people should be paying close attention to in terms of why positively believe in AMC right now, and why another reason for people want to buy into AMC is because firstly, we're seeing the AI bubble hitting the same concentration level that resulted in bursting of the previous bubble, including the .com. So you see that's the first sign that we're looking at right now. Secondly, we're seeing financial stress among US consumers that are intensifying, where the delinquency rate on subprime loans is up to 10% of total outstanding debt. So this is something that is worrying, but also something that's sounding similar to what has happened in the past before. And you can see why we're seeing so many reasons for why everyone is trying to brace for a market crash. So they want to look for that safe haven investment. And of course, AMC is the one that's being there. Another thing, the Japan carry trade, which requires the selling of US treasuries. This is something that we're looking at right now. And again, Japan is not in the best position right now. This is why we're seeing so many capital, so many institutions who are focusing on that area right now, because they could easily stumble the market. They could easily cause massive volatility. And we're also seeing the hiring recession in the US economy. So these are all obviously very, very terrible news. And these are something that we don't wish on the normal people, but it's something that we're seeing right now. And it's something that when we do see things like this, it typically hints to a massive market crash, a massive market recession. And so it's why we have to obviously protect ourselves. And in this case, it looks like AMC and GME is our protection. As always, as the financial advisor, do so for Instagram so much, do your own due diligence and research, and I'll catch you guys next time.